We're about to dive into a detective story that's 600 million years in the making. And believe it or not, all the clues are written right inside your DNA.
You know, every single gene in your body has a story. But most of them are maybe short stories or a novel at best. The one we're looking at today, oh, this one is an absolute epic. A saga that begins in the most complex place we know, your brain.
So let's meet our main character, a protein called Neuroserpin. The easiest way to think about it is like a microscopic bodyguard for your brain cells, your neurons. Its whole job is to patrol the delicate pathways of your mind and shield those precious cells from harm.
And we know just how important this bodyguard is because when the gene that makes Neuroserpin has a mistake, a mutation, things can go terribly wrong. In fact, these errors can lead to a rare but devastating form of dementia. So this is no bit player. This protein is absolutely crucial for a healthy brain.
But here's the thing, Neuroserpin isn't a lone wolf. Nope, it's part of a massive, ancient, and incredibly diverse family of proteins called the serpins. It's kind of like finding out your personal bodyguard belongs to this huge, global network of elite security agents, and they all have their own special skills.
Now this diagram gives you a little peek at just how complex this serpin family really is. Scientists have managed to sort the ones in vertebrates, like us, into 6 main groups. But trying to trace the family tree any further back, well, it's been what researchers call a notorious problem. The genes just changed so much over time that the ancient family connections got totally blurred. The trail went cold hundreds of millions of years ago.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth do you solve a family mystery that's this old? I mean, the clues aren't in some dusty old library. They're buried deep inside the DNA of living things.
Well, you need a special kind of tool. For geneticists, that tool is called microsynteny. And it's actually a pretty simple, brilliant idea. Instead of just looking at the gene itself, you look at its neighbors. You look for genes that have stayed in the exact same neighborhood on a chromosome, even across totally different species.
And by using this tool, scientists found it, the smoking gun. It turns out Neuroserpin has a consistent, faithful next-door neighbor, a gene called PDCD10. For millions and millions of years, wherever you find one, you almost always find the other, sitting right next to it.
All right, let's take a look at the map for our little journey through time. This diagram shows us the layout. Just think of the blue arrow as the PDCD10 gene and the yellow arrow as our hero, Neuroserpin. We're going to follow this pair back through the animal kingdom.
We'll start close to home with our fellow vertebrates. Here in humans, you can see the pair right there. Now let's look at a chicken. Yep, same pair. A frog, same deal. All the way down to a fish, you guessed it, the exact same pair. This consistent neighborhood proves this relationship is ancient, at least among animals with backbones.
But this is where the story gets really wild. The trail doesn't stop with vertebrates, not by a long shot. It goes deeper, much, much deeper into the animal family tree.
Okay, look down at the bottom of this diagram. Get this, the exact same head-to-head pairing of these two genes is found in the lancelet. That's a little fish-like creature that's one of our closest invertebrate relatives, and even in the sea urchin. We are talking about animals whose last common ancestor with us lived way before the dinosaurs even showed up.
And that brings us to the time scale we're dealing with. These two genes have been neighbors, side by side on the same stretch of chromosome for over 600 million years. Just let that number sink in for a second. Continents have drifted apart, entire empires of animals have risen and vanished, but this tiny genetic neighborhood has stayed exactly the same.
So, case closed, right? We found the ancestor. Problem solved. Well, not quite. Because just like with people, living next to someone for a really long time doesn't mean you've had the same experiences. And this is where our story takes a really fascinating twist.
It really is a tale of two genes. On one side of the street, you've got PDCD10. It's been incredibly stable, rock solid. Its internal structure, its blueprint has barely changed at all. But its neighbor, Neuroserpin, oh, it's been through the ringer. It's been radically and repeatedly reorganized over and over again.
And this picture shows you exactly what I mean. We're looking at the internal blueprint of Neuroserpin here, specifically the non-coding parts called introns. In vertebrates like us, it's pretty complex. But in the older lancet, it's super simple, just 2. And in the sea urchin, the introns are just gone, completely stripped out.
Now compare that chaos to its stable neighbor, PDCD10. The human and sea urchin versions still share 4 out of 6 of these same intron positions. And if you go back even further to the sea anemone, our human gene still shares 6 out of 8 positions. That's just incredible. It tells us that the basic structure of PDCD10 was locked in place right at the dawn of animal life and has barely been touched since.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, the fact that PDCD10 is so stable tells us its job is ancient and absolutely fundamental. It helps manage the internal transport and communication routes inside our cells, a task so critical that nature basically said, do not mess with this blueprint from the very beginning.
So what have we learned from this incredible genetic detective story? Well, first, that the secrets to our own biology are hiding in the DNA of our really distant cousins, like sea urchins. Second, that sometimes a gene's address, its location, is the biggest clue to its secret history. And finally, that evolution is just this amazing tinkerer, able to completely overhaul one gene while perfectly preserving its next-door neighbor for eons.
And all this leaves us with one last tantalizing question. We just cracked a 600-million-year-old mystery. So what other profound secrets about our own health, our brains, and our deep history are still out there, waiting to be found, hidden in plain sight in the DNA of our most distant animal relatives?